Hello, this is Alhassani from KTRM Studios. Today we have a special guest with us. We have Dr. St. Rice with us. How are you doing, Doctor?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. Dr. Rice is the new director for the Center for Diversity and Inclusion at Truman State University. You'll be starting in May 24th, is that correct?
Yes, May 24th.
You've been in Kirksville for the past 2 days. What do you think about Kirksville?
I like the town. So we got a chance, my wife and I had a chance to go around. This is actually our second time here. And so when we came initially, we got a chance to also see the area. We have some good friends that live in Moberly and in the surrounding community. So we're not familiar with it. So.
Okay. So Dr. Rice, you've had a long career in education, and can you tell us a little more about that?
Okay. Actually, prior to coming into higher education, I actually worked in the criminal justice background. And so worked in the prisons, drug courts, probation and parole, things of that nature. And that was about 23 years. That's how I actually transitioned into higher education, because I was one of the trainers for the state of Missouri. And as a trainer and being in the classroom, it really whet my appetite to teach students. I transitioned about 6 years ago, almost right about 7 years ago, to an institution in the St. Louis, St. Charles area. And I worked as an assistant dean, also a program director for the criminal justice program. And I left from there after about 4 years of service. And most recently, I've been at a school that's in the central Illinois area. And so I'm their lead faculty as well as an associate professor for criminal justice. So,
You've worked at 4 different education institutions, is that correct?
Worked full-time in 2, and I've worked as an adjunct at several of them.
Okay. According to the CDI website and Truman today, you've worked in University of Phoenix, St. Louis Community College, which are 2 bigger schools. And you've also worked in smaller schools like Lincoln College and Harris State University.
Yes.
Why did you choose to come to Truman, kind of somewhere in between these 2 sides?
I like the mission. I like the mission of Truman, in particular with the area of diversity and inclusion. I have some of my mentors that actually went to school here, and so they talked about the history of Truman and some of the things that was done in the area of multicultural and really having an impact on the students. I really like the student body. A lot of them are educationally, I'd say academically prepared to be competitive. And so it's working with a different demographic of students. But my love goes back to diversity. And so having an opportunity to really have an impact on an area that in the school that is focused on increasing diversity is what I'm really looking forward to.
As you probably know, Truman is really mostly white-based college. About 75 to 80% of the Truman students are white students. So that will definitely put you in some challenges getting the diversity and inclusion. So what are you expecting to be your biggest challenges?
I think the lens of looking at diversity through just color or race, that's kind of narrow. Even when we look at other groups within, if we have a homogenous group, so say we have that 80% of white students, even within that homogenous groups, there are so many different diverse aspects and characteristics of those individuals that we may not be tapping into, right? And so if we just look at it from African Americans or white Americans or even our Hispanic Americans, or if we look at it just from a race-based viewpoint, we're gonna lose an opportunity to really grow and understand diversity and inclusion. One of the things is not just, of course, we want to create paths. We want to create opportunities for those who are historically marginalized in higher education to have access to an affordable, high-caliber career and educational experience. However, we do want to remember that those who are a part of I would say, you used the word majority, we want to also be able to celebrate their diversity and help them find a space and a voice to, and say, okay, although, yes, I know I may be white, but these are things that's not being considered about me as a person. So that's our goal.
And so what is your overall mission? And you talked about your goal. What is your overall mission of being the director for diversity and inclusion at Truman?
Right now, as you know, that President Sue Thomas and the rest of the executive leadership team, they've been working hard with not only working on the strategic plan for the university, but also focusing in on the areas diversity with the diversity strategic plan. And so my goal is to come in and to really be one of the champions for that plan in the area of diversity. I really want to take what they've started and start to help build on it, increase, and look at some areas where we can, and I'm going to use this word, there are maybe some low-hanging fruit that we can do early on within the next, couple months or what have you. But then what's the long-term impact? We're looking at a 5-year process, right? And so as we look at this 5-year process, what are the steps? What are the milestones we need to consider? What are the barriers we need to consider? And how do we create very strategic initiatives that will help us be able to progress what we're trying to go in the area of diversity? I'll be honest with you, my first 180 days or maybe up to 6 months, I'm just going to listen. I want to know what's going on. I want to hear the voices of the students. I want to hear from faculty, staff. I want to hear their perspective on where we are with the area of diversity, right? And so by listening and understanding the history, understanding where we are now, understanding the needs, then that'll best help me be able to move forward and say, okay, this is what you've said or some of your peers have said, and these are things that we need to implement.
Okay, but so far you don't have really set milestones or goals that you're coming into the office with?
Well, we're working on the True Self program. We know that there were some changes with the what traditionally was the C's program, and so we have now the Bulldog Scholars, but we still need to create spaces where those who are historically marginalized, we need to create those spaces for them when they're coming in, so incoming freshmen who are African Americans or maybe other students of color. So with the True Self program, we do that. Also working on a leadership development plan, right? And so really, what does leadership look like on the campus, and how can we help the students who are currently here, how can we help them reach the goal of becoming more effective and impactful leaders? So that's another thing. Working with faculty, there are some initiatives in the area of pedagogy that we can help faculty to begin to improve and maybe even just enhance what they're already doing in the classroom. And then finally, I would say identifying in the area of recruitment and retention, trying to identify what are those strategies that we can implement for students who may be matriculating into Truman. What do we need to put in place? So I'll say initially, that's probably where we are.
You did talk about leadership. How someone could ask how leadership is connected to diversity and inclusion at Truman campus.
Well, it's not just at Truman. Leadership is a lifelong journey, right? And so when we're looking at, I look at college as being like a chapter in a person's life, right? And so we move from our K through 12 experiences, and in that role we have to raise our hands and go to the restroom. But when we get to college, right? That's that space where we can start to form our own identities, get our own perspectives of who we are as individuals, right? We're stepping somewhat away from even our family views and even the culture that we come from, and we can just discover ourselves. That's that space where we can really start to have those conversations on what is a leader, right? What are some of the leadership models that's out there? What best fits me as an individual? And then what area do I want to have an impact in, right? Some people want a global impact. Some people just want to go back into their communities and have a local or regional impact. So how do I best do that as a leader? Not just someone who went to school, got a degree, and now they're just going to enter the workforce. What's your dreams? What's your goals? What's your purpose in life? And how does that align with your leadership? And maybe somebody said, well, I've never thought about leadership. This is a good time to introduce them to that space.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Some students don't even know that we have Center for Diversity and Inclusion at Truman. Mm-hmm. So for those students, can you tell us how important is this office for Truman campus, for even students who might not be involved with the office? How could that affect them, affect their career, affect their life, their mindset, and so on?
It's critical. Diversity, when we're looking at the area of diversity, equity, inclusion, those are very critical roles in anyone's life, especially on the college campus, right? Because it's that space that advocates for those programs that will help us to understand demographics and individuals who we may not have had the opportunity to interact with. So when we're looking at the Center for Diversity and Inclusion, that's a space where students can meet. They can come together, they can ask questions of one another, they can have this critical dialogue in a safe space where they may not feel comfortable doing it maybe in a dorm, they may not feel comfortable doing it maybe in another space on campus, but that's the space where we're not afraid to have those hard conversations and create a safe space where people feel like, well, just because I don't know, I shouldn't be looked at as, you don't care, or we use terms racist and things of that nature. We really have to, when we're looking at the center, that helps us to say, okay, this is not really someone who's a racist or someone who is prejudiced or things like that. They're just uninformed. So now we can create a space where people can become informed on either side.
When I worked at the Center for Diversity and Inclusion last semester, one of our biggest challenges was that we can't reach the students. Students are not there isn't that many students who really follow the Center for Diversity and Inclusion on social media or read their blogs or whatever the Center for Diversity and Inclusion is producing. And probably part of that issue is the location of the office. It's a small office in Baldwin. So do you think that would be a challenge for you when you start in the office? And are you planning on changing any of that to be more present around campus?
I don't plan on making any changes right now. Mm-hmm. I plan to see what we have and utilize what we have. And because although we may say, for instance, we decide, let's move, let's get into another space. If we get into another space and we're still the same individuals and we're not looking at those initiatives and looking at things that can help us to become a force or become very interactive, then it don't matter about that space. One of the things with diversity is not a place where people just come to it. Diversity goes to other spaces, right? And so we partners, we collaborate, we go into housing and residential life, we go into student affairs, we go over to academic affairs, we get involved on the campus, and we don't expect individuals just to come to us and be a part of us. And so that's going to be a change, right? You'll see more collaborations, you'll see more partnerships, you'll see us outside of that office. And then when we have events that's going on in that office, right, then we'll do a better job of trying to market it, and we'll do a better job of listening to what students want, because if we're listening to what they're saying, then why shouldn't they come, right? Does that make a little sense to you?
That makes more sense.
All right.
You're starting in the office in a very difficult time. Mm-hmm. It's a world pandemic. Events are very hard to plan. They're very strict. You can't have people talking face to face. That's gonna put you in kind of hard position when you're still in the office. Mm-hmm. Do you think, and you were mentioning that you want to do events and go out to campus and go around, you don't want people to come to you, you want to go to them. How are you going to do that for the first few months or until the world pandemic is over?
Well, I think having this period of pandemic and being in places of isolation have shown multiple generations how important it is to have that socialization. Right? And when we had to go through the exact same thing where we were forced to do things virtually and not have contact with one another. We limited the number. I think now people really want that. So I'm hoping that as the school and as Truman and the community, as we begin to move forward with the initiatives to help us to prevent any more issues with COVID, that we'll be able to get ahead of the curve when it comes to the isolation and social distancing. I want to say this: there's never ever a perfect time, right? When we're looking at right now, we have the COVID, right? Before this, we had other issues that was going on in society or what have you. We have to create spaces. We have to create the times, right? And we can't look at, well, we can't do this, we can't do that. We have to look at, okay, what can we do through this period? And looking at that requires a team. We have to have a lot of voices sitting at the table, a lot of ideas. And then as we begin to collaborate and say, okay, yeah, we may not be able to do it this way, all right? But we can do it this way. We can do 25, we can do 30, we can do 50, whatever it will allow. We can use virtual means still. We can enhance our virtual impact. So it's not just this talking screen, but how can we bring more interaction? Also, what resources do we have that's nearby that we're not tapping into? What partnerships that's not just on the campus that we're not tapping into? That's how we can kind of navigate through whatever restrictions we currently have. So,
okay. Truman is located in a very wide rural area, and there are some students, especially from different races, that face some issues with racism or with locals around Truman, but not inside Truman. What do you want to do about that? Do you think you're gonna try to get outside Truman? You were talking about reaching to people. Are you gonna reach outside Truman? Are you gonna reach the community? Or are you gonna limit yourself to Truman students and the Truman faculty?
No, this role requires that I also be a part of the community. Hence, my wife and I were moving here. We're going to be a part of this community. We get engaged with church and other activities. We told you we have friends that live in the community or surrounding communities. So we're going to be a part of the Kirksville community and the surrounding communities. We look for allies. Of course, we can always see opponents, individuals who may oppose what we're trying to do, but our goal is to look for allies. Look for those who, and I believe from what I've seen in the conversations and things like that, I believe that there are many more allies out there than there are opponents. And so, yes, build on that space.
You've talked to President Thomas before our interview. Has she expressed to you any goals or anything she's looking for from you when you start in the office? Is there something specific she's trying to fix or trying to reach? She expressed that she wanted you to lead that goal for her.
I'll be one of the champions, one of the leaders for the strategic diversity plan for the university. And so that's at the forefront, and how we can do a better job here at Truman and enhance what we're doing currently in all areas. So it's not just student related, but it's looking at university-wide initiatives. And so that's really, I believe that President Thomas has a heart to see things change. And so it's about trying to go in and put all the pieces together. She's talked about, she has a true concern for our students of color and really wants to make sure that they have a space. She also has this a heart for other, I would say other characteristics or demographics of students. We have those who have gender and sexual identity. One of the things we talked about was even our white male students, right? And having those conversations with our white male students, because recently we've seen them come under some attack. Right, and it seems like because historically we're looking at our country and the things that have happened in our country all the way back from the founding, right? And so now we've seen some research and we've seen some data that's saying that white male students feel attacked. So how do we also create a space for them also? So, these are things that she and I have talked about, not just she and I, but also VP Janice Stanskoff. We've talked, and then also I've met with the VP of the Provost, VP of Academic Affairs. And
Jenny Gooch.
Yes. So we've all had these conversations, and we're looking. I love the plan that they have in place. So.
Okay, so you think you already have allies who are on your side to reach your goal.
Oh yes. Yeah, both within the campus as well as in the community. I believe that.
I believe that's all we have for you. Thank you so much for coming today. Is there anything?
Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
All right. So you said you worked in the CDI, right? So what strategies would you give me? One strategy you think would work in order to help my journey, help me prepare to move forward.
At the office, what I thought is the office was a little lost. They kind of had a lot of responsibilities, but small staff with people were all over the place. Different people were trying to do different things, and so I tried to work with other workers there and other students to kind of work on the same projects and reach the same goal and mission, but it didn't work well for me, and I don't work there anymore, not because of that, but because of other reasons.
Okay.
But I think if there are a lot of Truman students And we've hosted some events where we've seen a lot of students come out, mostly white students, because that's really the majority of Truman students. So there are students, I believe that there are a lot of students at Truman who are interested and want to help and want to be part of diversity and inclusion, which is amazing. It's just the reach there, which is your goal, is not going, as well as it's supposed to be. And so I believe, from what you said, I believe you'll do great things at Truman, and we are very excited to have you here at Truman. We're very excited to see what you will take us to, and where you're going to take the diversity and inclusion at Truman, because Truman definitely needs some of that help.
I'm glad you used the word "we," because it's a all academy effort. And so we really need those students. If there are students out there that may be listening to the interview or reading whichever media this comes through, I'm going to invite them to come in, sit with me, reach out to me, send me an email. Right? And so it's srice@truman.edu. Feel free for them to send me an email. I'll set up a Zoom, even though I'm not on the campus right now. I set up a Zoom meeting. We can sit and talk, go over their ideas, things like that. Because as I mentioned, we want to locate champions, and we want those individuals who really see the need and really see the importance of diversity, equity, inclusion. Remember, those are different now. Diversity means that when we look at the room has various looks. So that's from ages to race to cultures, things of that nature. When we're looking at equity, it means that everyone has the same or equal access based off of where they're starting, right? And they have the equal access to be successful, both academically, socially, personally, emotionally, things of that nature. But then inclusion is similar to, if I invite you to a party, right? I've included you, right? But then I want to make you feel belong. So how do I make you feel belong? I reach out to you and say, what kind of food do you like? What kind of music do you like? When you get there, you not only feel included, but you also feel like you belong there, right? So I appreciate the time, man. Thank you.
That is great.
All right.
Is there anything you would like to tell our viewers straight to the camera? You can tell them your message. What do you want to do at Truman, and talk to them?
Right. Well, we're looking forward to working with each and every one of you. And once again, I invite you that if you have any questions, if you want to just sit and talk, right? Send me an email, srice@truman.edu. Send me an email. We'll set up a Zoom conference, and we'll just sit and talk for a little while. I've done that with several students already who've reached out to me. Our plan is to be on the campus about May 26th. We'll be moving into the area before that time, my wife and I. So we would love to hear from you. Right? Be blessed.
Thank you so much, Dr. Russ. We really appreciate it, and we are seriously looking forward to what you're going to do with Truman. You have a great idea, and you are a great person, so you're going to be a great add to Truman community and to the curricular community in general. Thank you so much for coming today.
Most definitely.